Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're making Asian flavored sticky ribs. To start this dish we need 3 pounds of baby back ribs.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back ribs.
You can use pork or beef, whatever you prefer. I have pork ribs here, and we're just going to use a paper towel to blot off any excess moisture. I'm also going to split this rack in half because I need to make sure this is going to fit on my actual baking sheet. If you have a very large oven and baking sheet, you can leave the rack whole. Now our next step is to remove the silver skin that's on the back of the ribs. I believe if you're smoking ribs, you can leave the silver skin on, but I've never smoked ribs before, so I don't know if this is an actual true statement. Comment below if this is the case. There is a much safer way of removing the silver skin than I'm doing here. You don't have to use a large sharp knife. I watched a video on YouTube of a gentleman that used a butter knife, got underneath the silver skin, lifted it, took a little piece of paper towel, and pulled it off in one sheet. So that seems like a much safer bet than the method I'm using here. Once you remove all the silver skin, we have a foil-lined baking sheet just for ease and cleanup. We're going to pop our ribs on a rack over the baking sheet while we make our marinade. For our marinade, we need 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chinese five spice, 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of Shaoxing wine. You could use sake as well. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of hoisin sauce, which is going to add a beautiful sweetness to this marinade. A 1/2 tablespoon of gochujang, which is going to add a nice spiciness. And last but not least, 1.5 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses. This is going to add a really rich, deep flavor to our marinade. Next, I'm going to microplane 3 cloves of garlic directly into the marinade, very gracefully. Not the whole clove, Amy. Just grate this in. And don't forget all this garlic that likes to hide on the back. And then we're going to microplane a 1-inch piece of ginger directly in as well. Now we're going to stir this up until all those ingredients are well incorporated. Now we need to reserve 1/4 cup of this because we're going to use that for basting. So just pop a lid on that and throw that in the fridge until you're ready to use it. As for the rest of the marinade, we're going to take a pastry brush and start slathering this all over our ribs. So we want to get the tops, the bottoms, the sides. You want to cover this entirely in this marinade. Not only is the marinade going to start to penetrate and flavor this meat, it's going to start breaking down all those little collagen strands and start to tenderize your meat. Don't forget to get the back all over the bones. And we're going to flip this back over so the bone sides are resting down. Now we need to cover this with some plastic wrap or some foil, and we want to marinate this in the fridge for a minimum of 4 hours, up to 2 days. I was actually meaning to cook this the very next day. Life happened, so this actually marinated for 2 days in my fridge, and it turned out beautifully. So just pop that in the fridge and let that rest. Now it's 2 days later. I brought out the ribs to bring them to room temperature. I'm also preheating the oven to 390 degrees. We need to wrap our ribs into a lovely little foil packet just so this can steam and start to get all melty and tender. You could wrap them individually. I'm going to wrap these both in this one pack. If you have that one large rack, of course, you're just going to have this one foil package as well. Just make sure it's very well sealed. You are going to have some leakage, that's fine. That's why we have the foil on the bottom of the pan. But once that's all lovely and sealed, we're going to let this cook at 390 on the middle rack for 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours. We're going to take our ribs out and carefully open up our foil package. Be careful though, because it is very steamy and you don't want to burn yourself. At this point, you want to raise the temperature of your oven to 450 degrees. And remember that marinade that we set aside and reserved? We're going to use that now to start basting our ribs. And I'm basting it with all of the marinade at this point. We're going to pop this back in the oven once it comes up to temperature and let this cook for an additional 15 minutes. We want that marinade on top to get caramelized and burnt and bubbly, and it should look like this. After resting for about 5 minutes, we're going to garnish with a little chopped scallion, as well as some toasted sesame seeds. Now, let's give this a taste. This is literally falling off the bone. There's a richness, a sweetness, a saltiness, a heat to this beautiful marinade. The pork itself is tender and juicy and just succulent. These are just really absolutely wonderful. Clean bones. Those are good ribs. But there they are. Asian marinated sticky ribs. I hope you guys try to make these. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you loved it, subscribe and hit that notification bell because I put out new videos every Thursday. Thank you again, and until next time, happy cooking.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, goodbye.